Welcome to the Woodshed.
Hey, it's Alex, and I'm sitting here in the Woodshed again in the lobby of CPB, and we are going to do a show on creepy media. And which I just sprung on everybody because we didn't really know. We have this collection of smart individuals, and anyway, that's what's on my mind. It's on a lot of people's mind out there. Like, why is media getting so creepy? And we're going to talk about some of the creepier moments and maybe what's going on. And to do that, I've got a great collection of people. I've got Joe Toscano, who's here. Joe is the author of the book Automating Humanity and a contributor to Smashing Magazine, Forbes, Adweek, and other places. And founder and CVO of BEACON, Better Ethics and Consumer Outcomes Network. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Great intro.
Nice little bio there. And also we've got Jen Bollman, who runs our creepy media.
Yep, I do.
Here.
I do.
Is a co-lead of our comms and comm strategy group.
Yes,
right.
I do.
And we've got Joe Corr, who's been with us before and heads up technology here at CPB.
Second time, really excited.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's nice that you came after having been on the show once before.
It's dramatic.
You're still willing to be here, so thank you. So here's just to get us going on creepy media, and I think everybody's having this experience, right? Where you're talking about something with some friends, you're driving in the car, you're talking with your family, and then within a relatively short period of time, you get delivered some advertising about that thing that you were talking about. Mm-hmm. And so we talk about it here because we work in advertising, and one of the things I think to myself is, well, if that was happening, I could buy that thing, and no one's offered to sell me that thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you have an opinion on this, and I want to talk about it. Yeah. So what's going on? Maybe it's just that the predictive analytics, and you hear that's, this is the story. The predictive analytics are just so good that those coincidences are really coincidences, right? Mm-hmm. But I think for most of so, well, why don't you chime in, because you just said bullshit.
I mean, after talking lots with Jen and Chris and their team, and understanding what you literally can buy, they're being very smart about folding it into different ways where it doesn't look like what it is that you're doing. But for sure, absolutely, things are out there that have your technical consent. You signed that TNC. You South Parked your way through that Apple, iTunes update and guideline. But I don't think that everybody knows exactly how it works.
Yeah, I can buy you. I can listen. I can, I can't specifically buy you, but what I can do is I can buy things you hear. I can buy things you see. So there's technology out there. I mean, in your cell phone, and you guys have all seen it, where all of a sudden, to your point, we're talking about how many people actually crashed to the ground skydiving the other day. I got served something that talked about that, which was bizarre, but certain apps will actually listen. So you can conquest things that are on TV, you can conquest, that sort of stuff. There's also things, in a lot of the TVs where you setting up your new TV and you say, okay. You've allowed them to actually see what's on your screen. Right. So I can go in and I know if you've been served, a hotels.com ad, I can come up with a Trivago ad and, and conquest you. So that is available. The one thing that makes me less afraid of it is that they don't know it's me. It's number 6729338.
No.
So, point of contention. Yeah. So, but we're not buying specific people. We're buying.
We're not, but
you have have de-identified hashes or something. Yeah, but I mean, like, if we're sitting in this room and we're all talking, and I say, "Yeah, guys, we're talking about that woman over here to the left that has a hat on. It's black. She has a black shirt and jeans and tennis shoes." I don't know her name. I'm not going to give you her name, but like that. Here's where she lives and here's where she works. You kind of can probably guess who that person is within maybe 2 or 3 people.
Well, then with the device graph technologies, right? Like they are literally, they're selling it undone and atomic. Mm-hmm. And then other people are putting it together for you to buy it in an addressable way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Cambridge Analytica's data, I don't know if you guys saw the story. It was like last week or something, came out a couple weeks ago. So Cambridge Analytica as a company, the legal entity, has been liquidated. But their assets, their data assets, have not been. Those have instead been transferred up to the parent holding company, which also happens to have a bunch of other separate Cambridge Analytica types, and it's totally legal.
Yeah.
Like that happens all the time. People
And
are scared of Cambridge, but it's
in the world of advertising, this has been in a way, this has been the dream for a long time. And it's also been the promise. Hey, wouldn't it be great if you didn't have to see ads that you didn't care about, and you only saw ads that you cared about and were relevant to you? I find it's really happened to me in my Instagram feed. I see ads about weird tools, right, and mountain bikes.
GoPros.
Yeah,
stuff.
GoPro. And that's it. And and I love them all. And I find myself often compelled to buy instantly because I'm like, that's exactly what I want right now. So, but we all are still feeling the creepiness of it. Okay, so that's good. I do like that part of it, but it just still feels weird. And Joe, you had some experience and you worked with some companies and you were doing some, I think freelance.
Yeah.
And it led you down this path where you wrote this book, essentially.
Yeah. Well,
tell us a little bit about that.
I was a consultant for RGA actually out in Mountain View or out in San Francisco, working for Google as a main client. So I was in Mountain View 4 days a week. And we did a lot of marketing for Google. We did a little bit of internal product work as well. So we got to see both sides. We got to see products before they launched so we could figure out how to market them, all those things. We saw the strategy, how it's going, where it's going. And you also have to know Facebook. You have to know Amazon. You have to know the big competitors if you want to make sure that Google's on top. So it was a really insightful experience there to see that stuff. Overall, I think there's this, people do get creeped out by it, but also I think overwhelmingly people don't really mind the ads. Most people, otherwise I think there would be a much larger uproar. I personally like it sometimes too. It's not that I'm full on against ads. There's certain things though that I do believe about the experience that's going on. Like for example, you have the in-stream ads that you have on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere, where it looks so much like a post and it's so relevant to me that I actually don't remember not liking that thing. It's a little persuasion that you don't realize is part of your timeline now. Before, if it was on the side or it was clearly demarked, that's an ad. But now, especially like we're talking about now, how perfect it is in terms of context to you, it just becomes like, oh, that is just part of me. You don't even second guess it.
Yeah,
I notice it, but most people don't.
And you've talked about how in essence the big digital media companies, whoever they, all of them, they monetize your attention, right? And so they not only monetize your attention, they do a thing that other media couldn't in the past, which is get your attention.
Yeah.
And that's a step change, right?
Yeah.
From where we were.
Yeah. It's not, it's a little different. It's just more
like,
context.
My TV was never like, hey dude,
yeah.
hey dude,
watch this,
hey, check it out.
Yeah.
It
wasn't glued to our hip. It didn't ping us every 30 minutes or less.
We're all severely, not all addicted. I will say that I'm addicted.
Yeah.
Like I grew up with parents that smoked,
most people are.
and I would watch them wake up, grab the cigs, right, and light up, right. And what do? First thing I roll out of bed. I don't know if you do this too, but I grab my phone.
Yeah.
It is just reflex. Do you do that?
No, and you're in the feed before you even have anything
brush
going
your
on.
teeth.
Yeah.
I've been really mindful of it lately, so I'm getting better about it. I took all social media off my phone except Instagram because it only operates basically on your phone. And so that helps me. It helps me a lot. But I still wake up. It is awesome. I turn over and I touch it and I check what time it is and I check to see if I have any immediate notifications and then I get off.
I sometimes just touch my phone.
Right.
I've noticed that. Right.
That's how you know.
That's how you know you're really sick.
You're sick.
Yeah.
I was just like, there you are, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're still with me.
Or what?
I still
You
got
have the phantom buzz.
Oh,
I have never had the phantom buzz, I don't think, but
Yeah,
you
the
have
phantom
that?
buzz?
crazy,
Really?
like crazy. Yeah, and mine is actually my clock at night. It sits on my bedside table, but I wake up in the middle of the night and check it.
Do you have your phone on vibrate?
No, it doesn't ring at night. It just sits there. But yeah, it'll show stuff.
Yeah,
but
because I turn
wake
mine
up
on
at
silent
probably 2
completely. Like
and
I have
4.
nobody can ping me.
I
unless
think
just see
the
it happening.
thing that most people are worried about, and the thing that is the biggest, what feels like just the cultural biggest violation is like if it's listening to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
The behavior, the
It's
data,
so true.
that I think people should be concerned, and we can talk more about that. And I think people are concerned, but it's the listening.
Right.
And so I want to start with each of you
Okay.
and just say, who do you think's listening? Do you want to go there?
I really don't think there are that many companies that are out to listen, like Facebook, and they have access to things. They could be. I don't really believe that. I do believe the predictive modeling is that good.
Yeah.
I
okay.
believe they have 10 years plus data on you. And if I followed you around every single day for 10 plus years,
But there's
saw where you
so many,
went.
like, I don't care about a Volkswagen van at all. It's
Yeah.
not on my radar. I don't want
Well,
one.
it's not
And then
perfect, but it's damn
no,
close.
but I'm saying I don't care about it.
Yeah.
And then I am in a car with a friend who starts talking about Volkswagen vans because he really cares about it. And 30
Yeah.
minutes later, and so those coincidences, I'll put it in quotes.
Yeah.
Those coincidences are happening like so rapidly
Yeah.
that I can't. The ones that I can't chalk up to predictive modeling, right?
Well,
Because
consider
it's
though that
literally a
you-
thing I don't
You
give
give
a
a
shit
lot of
about.
them access to your textual messages as well, too, though, right? Like Facebook Messenger or
Wasn't
Gmail.
texting.
Sure,
Wasn't
sure.
texting.
Yes, I know. There's those situations.
All right, so you think
not
nobody?
discrediting it.
You think nobody?
I don't think it's like a big thing. I don't
A
think
small thing.
It is happening. I know
Okay.
it's happening, but I
Yeah.
don't think it's a big thing.
Jen, what about you?
I know it's happening. I can buy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
But when you buy it more as it's a bundle. It's bundled
Yeah.
with targeting, right?
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm buying people who are watching, Expedia spots or something like that. And honestly, we don't really do it. There's not much volume.
No, but you
a lot
don't.
of
But you're
times.
not-
You don't buy. You don't have the ability to buy someone who talked about
Right.
a Volkswagen
Right.
van.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. You're buying like people
Yeah.
who maybe like have been thinking about this. Or,
You can buy interest
No,
in
Yeah,
such.
I'm picking up things from TV. I'm picking up, so there
Yeah.
are listening things out there. That
Sure,
listen.
Oh,
But
Whether or
that's
not
part
they
of
can pick up your
predictive
voice,
modeling.
I don't know. But like
That's
I know
what
that
I'm
we
saying.
Right.
can actually say, I want to target somebody that's seen this
Oh,
spot.
for sure. That's
Yes,
on
for
TV,
sure.
So it can
I
actually
what
hear.
we're talking about. What I'm
like
talking
actually
about
access
is like
to your mic listening. Like
Yeah.
it's happening. I just
Yeah,
don't think it's.
I think it is.
well, you do let people listen. Like
Yes,
it's
yeah.
one of
It's
the
consensual in
it's
most
one of the
cases.
permissions that you give.
Right.
So Joe, who what do you think? I kind of know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think so. Like, here's a great example. A young art director came and said, "Hey, help me understand this,"
Mhm.
right? And she said, me and my friends, we're playing a board game,
Mhm.
Settlers of Catan. In Settlers of Catan, there's a location that's like an East African place. Call it Zanzibar.
Mhm.
Never searched it. Never did anything. It's just they were talking about Zanzibar over and over because it's in the game. Pulls open her Facebook. First ad is a flight to Zanzibar. How does that happen, Joe?
I mean, 2010.
That's
there's a-
modeling, my
There's,
friend.
there's a quote in here though. You can look it up. Like 2010, Eric Schmidt, who was former CEO, he said, it's 2010, almost 9 years ago, we don't even need to have you type anymore. We can just predict what you're going to enter. And that was just based on modeling at that point, like.
So do you think the modeling was able to? So potentially the modeling knew that they would be playing Zanzibar
That's what I'm
because
saying.
of other things they were
stuff
doing.
like that. Yeah.
And then they played Zanzibar and they talked about Zanzibar, but it wasn't the talking. It was the
'Cause there's
fact that they
other
just were
things that-
Zanzibar bound.
There's other things that led up to you going to play Zanzibar too.
Right.
And
Right.
what if there are different sets of people throughout the world who also had similar interactions
Totally.
before they went and played Zanzibar?
Totally.
That sounds crazy, but you're talking about companies that have surveillance on the entire globe.
And you're talking about a
But that's my
sample.
point.
You're
It's the
talking
surveillance.
sample sets of
I'm not
billions
saying it's
and
not
billions.
surveillance.
Right. But they're surveilling. I think it's like a media literacy thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I'm the most interested is like how explaining to people how it works so they can feel more comfortable. Because I
Right.
think what's happening in
Yeah.
culture now is people are uncomfortable, right? Like there's a lack of trust
Mhm.
and they don't know what's happening. And when they have smart assistants in their home,
Yeah.
there's awareness that goes to a different world
Yeah.
of what those are. And when companies get in trouble and stuff gets leaked, that
Right.
like they're literally
Yeah.
looking at transcriptions.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
They're
they are.
turking everything.
For sure. And even you have like Amazon and Google are now having like their extended conversation versions where you don't have to like constantly say, "Hey Alexa," you say it once and then you can continue the conversation for like 2 or 3 minutes. That means Alexa's cued on and listening for those 2 or 3 minutes. That's all it is. And
Right.
yeah, they have those transcripts and like of course.
But it's possible that there are apps that you don't even think about as one of these
there's a lot
apps,
of them,
and
yeah.
you have it running in the background on your phone, and it's listening, and you talk about Zanzibar. They take that data and they sell it as within a bundle of
Yes.
people who are interested in Zanzibar.
Right.
Yes.
And not how they know, but just that they know, and it's good data, and it gets purchased from there's a targeting company,
Right.
and you purchase that targeting, lay that on
Right.
to the buy, and boom, she gets delivered that ad.
Yes.
So Joe wants to run an experiment. We're beginning this experiment.
We're buying the
We're
stuff.
both very curious about it.
Yeah.
We're buying the stuff. And so why don't you explain
Sure.
the experiment to find out whether the phone is actually listening.
And
Not the phone.
what is
What
listening?
is listening?
Like, what is
What
listening?
is listening?
And I
Yeah.
think like the way that we're going to try to run the experiment is just totally clean devices that have never had a search term gone on it. The IMEI
Yeah.
number is not yet inside of a data store, and just slowly go through entering a specific thread of thought into the search term.
Mhm.
And then enter and then speaking a completely different thing. And so we're going to use
Okay.
robots to recreate the actual interaction with the device, and we're going to have speakers that are recreating, simulated sound around that.
Yeah.
And then just basically do that over and over and over. Clean phone into Safari, clean phone on a Pixel into Chrome. Just do it for 6 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours.
Yeah.
Does it affecting the ad?
Yeah.
And then we need to take it off the network. Like we need to remove those things of proximity, right? Because it understands, oh, Joe's sitting next to Alex.
Yeah.
And so Alex has these search terms. So Joe's probably interested in
Right.
those search. Like totally.
And there's all that kind of stuff.
And
a lot
that's-
of
Friends can
controls,
make-
a lot of controls to
Right.
run
That
this.
doesn't necessarily mean listening to mics. But
Exactly.
Yeah.
but
There's
that's-
a ton, right? And
Yeah.
then basically go through what we think are the most common apps that people have on their
Yes.
phone.
And
Mhm.
Facebook, Instagram, right? Snapchat, all those different ones that you've given mic access to.
Yeah.
And just step through that and repeat the experiment over and over and over to start to see when those things come in.
I think it's going to be the random, not
Well, so this is
You
this
should
is
also
the
run
debate.
one without any audio nearby at all.
Exactly.
for sure.
Then you
There's going to be
exactly.
one in a silent
It's
room.
just
yeah.
Doing the
algorithm.
same, but getting the
Yeah.
robot to be able to recreate literally the same search
Yeah.
entries over and over.
Yeah.
Then
Interesting.
okay, let's just say it comes back totally clean. We've had no inference. Okay, that means that Facebook, Instagram, like those people are not. Well, let's face app,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
What has asked for my
Yeah.
camera that I've been lazy about and not closed,
Right.
or disclosed? And I'm just trying to say for the average person, not the person that's conscious of this,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Not the person that's going in and changing their permissions,
Right.
just like in general.
I look at my phone and I always have like 100 apps open. My son's really good about closing them all the time, and he'll
Yeah.
grab my phone and close everything. I got everything open.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
And-
you're like most people, right? Like you're like most people in that way. That
I
it's
like to
just
think
not
so.
conscious
Thank you.
of that. Yeah, that's why you're a good marketer, right? You can
Unconscious, like most
You
people.
can put that in there, but
Yeah.
like then do the whole experiment, then fold in the assistants, then
Yeah.
fold in the smart
Yeah.
speakers, and just start to understand that. Because I just think like I don't know, if people knew what was going on, would it change their behavior?
Well, it really did. See, for me, I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
And it would be a lot of fun. It will still be correlation. When the
Yeah.
experiment's done, it's
Absolutely.
not causation, it's correlation.
Right.
But you have a lot of controls and you publish, here's the controls, here's how we did it. Here's what
Here's the
was
GitHub repo.
served.
Take it,
Yeah.
redo the
Yeah.
same experiment.
Yeah,
yourself.
run the
Yeah.
same thing. But it potentially might lead, to say, well, it looks like these apps may be listening.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, could also shortcut it and read the terms of service agreements. It'll tell you who's listening. But
well, we know
no one
listening and
wants to do
whether
that.
they're doing anything with it.
That's
Yeah.
the
Because
reality. Are they
the
selling
claim
the data?
is
Well, that should be said in their terms though too.
Yeah.
But I think another thing to consider with all that too. Oh Jesus Christ, what was I just gonna say? We were just talking about running the experiment. Changing people's behavior. Will it change people's behavior if they see these results? I think actually people are to that point where they want to change things. I just don't think they have options.
yeah.
We're at a point where we have very powerful companies saying, well, people aren't going anywhere else, so it must not bother them. Dude, there is nowhere else.
Right.
Right.
Have you used
Right.
DuckDuckGo?
Right.
Right. It
Have
doesn't
you, like-
it's- no.
There's
Right.
no other options for most of these services. I mean, Gmail, there's alternate email opportunities, but even in that, if you use the wrong domain for your email, Google has such a strong phishing network that sometimes it pushes those strange emails they're not at gmail.com out of their system, and it goes to people's spam. Like I've intentionally made it for now that our business runs on a Google Cloud service for our email, for our documents and stuff, because I want to make sure that when I email someone, it doesn't go to their spam. While we're a young company, I can't be risking that.
Yeah.
That's a stranglehold on
the
moving to another platform.
Yeah.
And that's things that people don't really think about. But there's a lot of those little turnkeys that make it so you really can't change. Even if you
well,
do,
you don't really have the tools, and there hasn't been the legislation to come in, right?
right. Which I
mean,
think it's coming, but
I
even
think
that's
it's probably coming.
Mhm.
I mean, can you imagine if a bank decided to do funky things with, well, sometimes they like Wells
Sometimes they do.
Fargo,
Yeah.
right? But does the government have a hard time then like stepping in, taking a look, and seeing exactly what happened?
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
It's like pretty easy.
Right.
In the world of
because
tech,
they're used to it at this
because
point.
well,
right?
it's legislated too.
It's
Like we're
legislated
going to
and
take a look
have
at
experts.
banking is regulated. So
Yeah.
I think data is unregulated largely still.
Yes,
And
yeah.
we don't have a process for
Yeah.
what do you do if there's been, someone suspected of misusing data.
Yeah.
There's not a process for any sort of government or outside entity to
Yeah.
take a look at what's actually occurred.
And that to
right?
me is really interesting with
Yeah.
this conversation, right? Because it's like, let's say that we find the best case scenario, it's the Russian hackers making FaceApp, right? They're the only ones listening to
Yeah.
you. It's just them.
Yeah.
Thank goodness we identified who it is.
I think that's what it's going to be.
Let's say that that's it,
personally.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then who's buying their data? And is that
Right,
ethical?
Right.
Yeah.
And then what DMP does that get mixed into?
Right.
And then can you even get away from this? That's where the conversation gets really interesting.
And like, how do you know that even if they told you that they deleted it, and even if they can prove that they deleted it, that they didn't pull it down before they deleted it and put it on an external hard drive?
Right.
Yeah. Even with blockchain, yeah, you can do those things. Blockchain's not scalable. That's not going to happen. It takes so much energy to run that
Yeah,
shit.
it would be unsustainable.
So like, you don't know right now. So there's just got to be regulation that says how it's allowed to be used, how it's not. And it's not going to stop everything, but neither do stop signs. If we could at least corral it to a much lower percentage, we could take steps forward.
Do you think there's potential for there to be some sort of standardization around permissions and how we give them, and so that consumer control just is more natural and not such
Well, there's that.
such a
Have you seen
drag
the
and
Tim
so
Berners-Lee
difficult now?
project? The new
Solid.
Tim, yeah.
Yes.
Starts to approach that, right?
Yeah, I think good luck. No offense, Tim. Like if you hear this,
He's
but
pretty good at stuff.
yeah, because he
He's
is.
pretty
Yeah.
good at
He
stuff.
has a good reputation. But I think it's a thing where good luck getting those billions of people to move to a platform just so that they can log back into the other platform. I understand it. I would use something like that, but I am one of the maybe 1% of the world who's into this.
Yeah.
And I think generationally, maybe you'll see that. I think we actually will start to see like data banks essentially, where we process our data and hold it just like Wells Fargo does with our money. But right now, I just don't see that. And so that's actually something we're working on at Beacon, and we're launching in about a month and a half as a standardized way to improve consumer consent experiences. Make it so that it's digestible, it's in plain English, it is just very simply laid out. You could skim it if you want to,
Yeah.
or dive deeper into still something that's much easier than the lawyer's language that you have now for 30 pages. Or
Yeah.
whatever.
And if you're doing that in part because you suspect that companies are going to have a lot of pressure to be more transparent about
Mhm.
this, and it's going to become a more complicated thing. So this is almost like a toolkit for any
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and they already do. So you have the GDPR that's been out since 2018. You have the CCPA coming out January 2020. You have a bunch of different states that are starting to regulate it, which I think is sending up huge red flags to companies because they're like, we don't want state by state regulation.
Yeah,
If we're going to get any regulation, it better be federal. So almost companies are starting to get involved and saying we need it. But yes, I think outside of that, they already have to, and so they're going to be avoiding fines. There's the opportunity to become the brand that now sets the standard, own that as a brand and headlines and things like that. And there's plenty of research that says if you regain trust, that people are more likely to give you deeper access to data. So you'll actually, instead of maybe people pulling their data away from you, you could start to leapfrog the market.
Where's
and get
Facebook
that
right
data.
now with their Libra, the crypto?
I don't know
Are
a
they
lot
gonna
about
back
that.
down off of that, or
Good luck on that. Yeah, whatever. Facebook.
it didn't go over really well?
No, they can throw
with
stuff out
folks.
all they want because they have billions of dollars.
But they're working hard. When you talk about
Yeah.
getting people to trust them, I feel like they
Yeah.
really want to work towards people trusting them again.
I mean, want and doing is totally separate things.
I
I think they
that-
want people to have trust for them, but
Yeah.
to the practices they're performing, like they said this whole mission about becoming more trusting. What was it? Late last year, and then they released what's the video platform that they have? The video portal. Portal that you can have meetings and phone calls on. And it was found out a few months into that or less that the camera is not only moving to track you, which obviously was something that people could see, but they were leveraging that video to then target ads to you.
to
They're
identify
looking
things in the
inside
room
your
and
house.
stuff.
There was
Yeah.
legal language in the agreement say we can. So if we're in your house, we're in your office, we can see what's in your office. We can see what you have on your desk. We can see all. Now that they don't say that in the legal language, but if you just read how general it is, they can totally do
Oh,
that.
I did
You know?
I did one of those calls from the shower, and my shampoo bottle was low. Boom.
Yeah.
I made that up just now, but
I was really impressed for
Well,
a second.
You know, it brings up
wouldn't
a good
mind that.
question. Do
yeah, it'd be nice because
Yeah.
I always forget the
Yeah.
shampoo.
That's exactly
right?
right.
do I don't, but do any of you guys cover your cameras on your
I do.
devices?
I do.
You do?
Oh, on
I-
my computer, I do.
Yeah.
I will say that I know I should,
Yeah.
but I don't because I don't want to say I've given up, but I kind of don't. I know I've consented to a lot of things.
Yeah, there's so much
And
already.
so it's
the
like-
camera's just
and they
one
have
more
decades
thing.
of my data.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to somebody yesterday. He's like, "Oh, he was actually talking about
It sounds
a data
a lot
bank
like giving
idea."
up.
Well,
But
but
I don't want to
well-
sound like I'm giving up, but
I
except
well,
for the-
there's
except for
we
the
don't have
giving
ways to
up part.
control it though, you know,
Yeah.
at this point. So it's not, you know.
What if you
but
started to pay for Facebook?
I would pay for Facebook annually. Actually, I wouldn't pay for Facebook now because it's just I think it's dead. I don't.
Well,
really-
just in general.
Well,
like
Instagram.
Facebook-
But I
We
would,
love
I would, I would
Instagram.
pay for a
Same
service
thing.
if I knew that they were not going to abuse my data.
So let's just
For
kind of
sure.
do the math on that. What should they charge?
Well,
How
let's
much?
see,
Well,
Facebook
how can they?
made-
How much do you think they're monetizing my Instagram activity
Huge.
on an annual basis?
Huge.
Oh,
the
huge.
average
And
the
they
average
cut it back
individual is
so-
only worth a couple $100s a year.
So
I
would
mean,
I
at the
pay a
most.
couple $100 a year? I'm just saying, like,
No,
to make
that's
it
how
so-
much they make off you. So like you
Yeah.
would pay them probably less. I would assume, you know, like
Well, it's for
Well,
the
because
they
revenue
could
to
still
be the
make
same.
money
that's my
Yeah,
point. Is
saying
like, to not change, to keep it
don't
flat.
Well,
change anything.
Facebook
So
had-
it's $9 a month for Facebook rather than.
well,
you know.
say it's Facebook made 40 billion in revenue, 2017. They have
1
quote
billion.
unquote 2 billion users.
2 billion
2
now.
billion users.
I've missed a billion.
Okay. So divide yeah, right.
Catch
So
up.
you're talking what, $20 a person, right? Per year? Divided by 12.
I'll pay that.
I
to
can't
not
do
have
that
ads.
math right
But
now.
I guess that's the
40,
question.
yeah,
It's just
40
like, right?
divided by
It's
two.
just, is it too broken? I mean, newspapers went through this, right?
Yeah.
Like the reason I
Yeah.
bring it up
Yes.
is because like newspapers just went through this and they didn't find a clear path.
Yeah.
On the other end, Patreon.
No, I don't
It's
think that's.
Well,
let me say on
I
that-
don't think
on
it's
that-
going that route.
On
to
that
me.
same note, though, I want to say I don't think advertising's evil. I don't think that we should, like, so many people are up in arms about advertising being the evil. Newspapers had advertising. That's how they were funded. The phone book had advertising. That's how it was funded. And the phone book had your address and your phone number and your name. There's not much more personally identifiable information. If I want to come to your house, I'm coming to your house. You know, okay? You now have these platforms that have a lot more data on us, but ultimately Facebook is just a more enhanced phone book. It's paid for by ads. It's a free service. It has everyone's contact information, all these things. Okay. I think the problem actually is that, like I said earlier, the in-stream ads and the fact that they are hooking us in ways that we don't really realize. I think if those ads were on the side,
Let me take
they're
it to
clearly
a creepier
marketed.
place.
Yeah.
Since this is all about creepy stuff.
Yeah. Let's do
The if you go to China, right?
Yeah.
My son just got back from China. Obviously, like every platform that we have, they have the Chinese version of it, right? There's
Yeah.
the Chinese Facebook and the Chinese Twitter and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
If you don't understand why, the reason is because the Japanese or the Chinese government, probably the Japanese government, but the Chinese government is not okay with American companies knowing the movement and the behaviors of their citizens, right? So they create a proxy, and we think, and we look at how they do that and
Yeah.
what they then capture in terms of their citizens and some
Yeah.
of the things they've been doing around that, and we think, well, wow, how creepy.
Yeah.
Good thing I'm not in a communist country, right?
Yeah.
Do you think, and we can go around the group, but
Yeah.
do you think, because from the outside, it looks like there's, a little bit of a standoff between the government and some of these tech companies.
Yeah.
More recently, you don't feel that vibe as much, right?
Hmm.
And I've heard from people who would know,
Yeah.
have said to me, oh no, the government gets everything that they collect and anything that they collect.
Government gets a lot.
Yeah. And so if you think about the potential for an advertiser to shape your thinking,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
With that behavior, what's the potential for government,
Yeah.
whether it's foreign or your own, to shape your thinking?
Yeah.
Just start with you.
It's really interesting. Like they're not just collecting the data. Like the government is effectively owns the data.
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is kind of different here, where
You're talking about China.
China,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry. So
Yeah.
here in the U.S., like Facebook technically owns the data, but they're giving the data to the NSA,
We don't know.
right? Let's just imagine.
I'm
this
going to.
hypothetically that they're sharing that data, but it's not an ownership.
Yeah.
I think what you're seeing in China, especially with like the social value system, right?
Mhm.
Which is they then use that data to affect the behavior of your life.
Yeah.
Like we have not had that experience.
How do we know we
I don't
haven't
think
had
that's
that
true at all.
experience?
Okay, well let's
Yeah.
talk
I don't
about
think
that,
that's
right?
true at
Yeah.
all.
Well, I guess in China it's very clear. Like I'm not allowed to go to Shanghai if my score is under 80.
Okay.
Right? That's literally what the
Right.
government is using the data to do.
You have a Fitbit that's starting to get tied into our health care price. You have 23andMe that now partners with Big Pharma. You better hope that the genetic information does not make it so you can't get insurance.
Well, insurance is a private business.
So exactly, it's not government owned. You're right, but it's a decentralized. It's non-government. We have a very similar system, though. Is what I'm trying to say. It still affects our lives.
Well,
We
we
have
had
businesses get
Russian
raided.
influence in the last election.
Yep.
Like, Jen, you're
Right.
nodding a lot.
Yeah,
I
I
want to
know.
hear from you.
No, I mean that, and I think that's the huge thing is we had Russian influence in the last one,
Mhm.
but I think what everything I've heard says pretty much that is probably the new standard. Like that is the way that everything is going to moving forward because people's feeds are so curated to what their ideals are, and you can easily tap into the right people and cause anger amongst the wrong people, and so I think that is now. That's the standard, and that's what's scary moving forward. It scares me to death. Most of the data stuff, as a a media person in the business, it doesn't really bother me because I don't feel like contrary to what you say, it's specifically to me. But the fact that they can reshape my country and my day-to-day life is terrifying.
But that was just advertising.
Well, it's
But
but when it makes you buy that shirt off of Instagram,
Yeah.
it's different than when it shapes how you vote. And
ethically, yes, but the actual
The
performance
process,
of advertising,
yes, the process is the
advertising.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Propaganda.
process is the
Yeah.
same, and that's
Right.
why I think it's
that's why it's
really-
hard to regulate.
It's also why it's worth talking about
Yeah.
because if it's so
Yeah.
clearly doable with shirts,
Yeah.
right,
Right.
then it's also doable with
Everything.
everything.
Yeah.
And so if you have the data, you have the power to shape
Yeah.
the outcomes.
And
right?
and ultimately, like, okay, we'll just be upfront. I'm not a Trump fan, but like ultimately, a lot of the people who are concerned about regulating what happened in the last election are not Trump fans. Like I think a lot of times, a lot of people get offended when it's not in their favor, right? This shirt, I didn't get this off Instagram, but this shirt, if I bought it off Instagram, was in my favor. Okay.
Exactly, or at
Right.
least it feels that way.
Yeah.
It feels
I
that way.
participated in it
feels
to
that
see how it
some
goes on
way.
tonight.
feels
Let's
that
see.
way, but I participated in it in some degree.
Yeah.
It
Right.
released some pheromones, and
Right.
I got to feel jazzy.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you had entertainment on social media with the Russian, the fake news stuff. And it's not just Russians either. There were just a lot of people, even in other countries,
Oh,
that
wow.
found, I can make a lot of money off this inflammatory content. It's just the business model. of
No,
it,
that's
you know?
interesting. Well,
Who paid them?
prior to any of this
So
happening,
you could find some from I think it was Milan and a bunch of
But who
low
paid
East.
those people to put the money in the platform?
I don't know that.
Someone.
We could track it down if we could. Maybe you can't even track them down. Maybe it was cash. Maybe it was cash from Russia. We're going to start a new conspiracy. But I don't know, we don't know. But people found that they could make money off this stuff more than anything.
but
Russia
prior,
But
had
here's,
an
here's what I'm
intention,
trying
but-
to say. Like, where's the regulation come in? Does the
very
regulation
hard.
come in and
Yeah.
say
oh,
these people can't put money into your business?
Well,
That's a very different thing
it's
than
hard.
saying this business can't monetize that data.
Yeah. And you now have on Facebook's platform, I noticed I got a Trump ad that it's an information button. So you could click and see why did you get this ad and blah, blah, blah. And it says all social, political and campaign ads now have to have this flag on it, blah, blah, blah. And in my mind, I'm like, that's very noble of you, Facebook. But what if somebody especially non-Trump campaign or Hillary or whoever campaign, some of these people, they're just trying to make money off it. What if they don't happen to click the filter that says this is a political ad? What if they say this ad's for entertainment?
Yeah.
Well, then there's no flag, Facebook, because your automated system is looking this way and your robot forgot to turn its head.
Yeah.
You know?
And I live that on a daily basis. I work on
Yeah.
a lot of healthcare stuff, and healthcare is also very protected information and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So, part of the issue with Facebook is I can hardly post anything health related. I had to actually have a letter sent to my house from Facebook to confirm that I had a U.S. license, driver's license, that I had to scan and send to them, and receive a note or a letter at my house to enter in some kind of code to say that I'm an American.
In terms of foreign countries influencing the U.S., like you said, it's not just Russia, right? I'm sure it's many. Now, prior to any of this happening, there was a feeling internationally, or at least a movement and a thought, like, shouldn't other countries be able to vote in U.S. elections? Because the U.S. president influences every part of the world. Now, Rome had this. You couldn't vote. You didn't have a full vote, but if you were outside of Rome, you had a partial vote. If you were in another territory, you had a smaller partial vote. So is it wrong, or for them to even?
Way?
Is it the way? Is it really just sort of this makes sense? Other countries are going to participate because they need to participate in the U.S. election. And they're not going to stop. It's just going to get I think we all feel like it's going to get more and more vigorous. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes down to the transparency, right? And it's a media literacy thing. If you're aware of where the message is coming from, you have the ability to have a half a second of process. Now, this is my feed, right? Flying through it, not inspecting every ad, right? For where that's coming from. But right now, we just don't have that ability. Right. We don't have the ability to kind of see who is funding the types of advertising that we're getting. We could talk about Joel, right? There's a billion ways that can be used. The question is, on these international global platforms, do we have the right setup, or does China have the right setup? I mean, fundamentally, that's very interesting. Is Denmark worried that Facebook has the ability to track every Danish citizen? Probably. Are they creating their own Facebook? No. Right. I'm just kind of curious, I don't know. I just feel like we're in this transitory period between the way things are going. I mean, there's a lot of talks to nationalize Facebook, nationalize Amazon, right? Because they are now so fundamental to their value comes from life. And their value comes from us as a society. They wouldn't exist unless we were putting the funds back.
So that's a good segue. What's next? We'll just go around. What's next in terms of solutions and just what's coming? So let's start with you, Joe.
Well, you're going to see, we're already seeing regulation around how it's allowed to be shared. So I'm in some different conversations sometimes, right? With our board, who we have on board. One of them is Brittany Kaiser, who if you have Netflix, Great Hack, that was Brittany Kaiser. That's her, she leaked from Cambridge Analytica. You can go check out the whole story about it. But her and several other people in those kind of positions. And what you hear sometimes is actually these politicians who are supposed to make the law are very open to discussing, the regulation of marketing data and certain genetic data and things like that. But when it comes to the ability of politicians to spend money on ads or use the data, they're not cool with that, right? That's their livelihood. So I think that's a huge hurdle that has to be overcome, right? And that's just a fundamental thing that's going to take the people being media literate to fight back at,
Yeah, that's I always come to media literacy for a lot of this stuff. But it's, we're I feel like our schools are not particularly good at teaching just what we've asked them to teach, and now they're not really adding media literacy much. Do you see it changing?
I think that schools were built for a previous era. And they
factory
worked well.
workers.
They worked well. But we're at an industrial revolution right now, and
we're like 2 eras behind, though.
Yeah, but schools are a lot of kids get public schooling, and public schooling is not a private thing that gets funded by billionaires or millionaires. There's no investment opportunity, and we live in an environment in the U.S. where most things are driven by the investment opportunity at this point. So kids aren't getting the new books. They're not, teachers aren't having continuing education courses to keep them up to date. There's more than just these teachers are bad at teaching. There's a lot going into it.
No, I don't think teachers are bad at teaching. I think that the process is problematic.
Well, one of our partners, though, is working on that. There's a Digital Futures Initiative, and it's the
teachers are great
comparison.
At teaching. They just give them a really bad system to work
Yeah,
on.
So they're creating a framework that teachers can take into their classroom and begin to change, kind of similar to what DARE was. But I told them, how do we not?
But
make
if
this
you
a
have
failure
a
like
if you
dare?
have a framework to teach this right now,
Yeah.
you can't teach it. You still can't teach it in public
Why?
school because it's not accepted curriculum. You can't
What do you mean?
change the curriculum because the curriculum and the testing are connected. You can't just put media literacy into any public school that you want to. It goes into an aspect of, I guess, social studies, which has gotten more and more
Sure,
diminished,
sure.
right?
That's a fair way to say it. There's
Yeah.
also, you have coding classes that are coming up. There's more coming into
Seems
social
super critical though, but
it'll
yeah.
change. It's just going to take time, and
I like
unfortunately,
your positive attitude.
the industry. Thanks. Yeah, I try. Unfortunately, the industry is moving way faster than our public society is, and that's kind of
Yeah.
how it's always been, though.
Well, we design schools for factory workers. We never redesigned them for the information age. Now we're in like the second stage of that era, right? And we still haven't overhauled things.
Yeah.
So it's definitely an issue.
The-
Jen, what are you getting seeing?
I agree on the regulation. I think right now I think California is kind of leading
Yeah,
the
they got
charge
the
on that.
CCPA coming
then-
out in 2020.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are
January.
trying to kind of go ahead and do those regulations, like stick with those
Yeah.
regulations. But one of the things that we see is a lot of sites or a lot of programmatic vendors, things like that, from media standpoint, actually policing themselves. So even though there are not regulations around data, things they will not do, again, going back to health data, there's, they won't let us target on certain health
Sure.
things that make it feel like it's personally identifiable. So I think that'll probably continue because I think there is backlash, But my bigger question is, there's people who are wildly concerned about this, but I do still think the masses.
Mhm.
I mean, they're hitting okay. They don't care. They don't think about it. They're not worried about it. So I think it is a problem.
Well,
but I think it's a-
value provided outstrips the concerns.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
until and I don't think that's going to switch. My own opinion is people are going to get used to it.
Yeah.
And like what feels creepy now is just going to feel like just every day,
Right.
and it's just going to go away. And then the ability for our devices and for the data collection to know more and more about us is only going to increase, and our comfort level is going to change.
Right.
Don't really have an answer for that other than critical thinking. Teach critical thinking
Right.
so that you have, like you said, that 1 millisecond where you're like, well, where's this coming from and why? And I'm forearmed, right?
No, it's funny because it reminds me of like when the election happened in 2016. There was a lot of blame on boomers, right?
Mhm.
And the reason there was a lot of blame on boomers is because they weren't media literate. I mean,
Right.
fundamentally,
Mhm.
that was the reality. My 72-year-old aunt on Facebook believes everything that they see on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
And I think that there's a moment in time that media literacy fixes that.
Mhm.
And I think that
Agreed.
There's also a generational thing. Like
exactly
there is a
right.
generation that
Right.
doesn't really believe anything on Facebook.
Right.
I mean, we didn't even get into deep fakes and like what that means for like, I won't be able to believe you unless I'm right in front
In
of you,
person.
probably touching your head. I would
Yeah.
need to be touching your head
Yes.
to make sure it's not a hologram. He agrees.
Yeah.
That's where it's going.
I think it's what I
that's it.
absolutely.
And I
Stay
know
away from
that,
my head.
and I know that HR would have an
Get you
issue
on
with
it.
that.
Get you on it.
I'd have to make Joe.
You can check
Joe,
on-
you
can
touch
check
me
Joe.
right now too. Touch me.
Oh,
Thank
you're
you.
real.
Okay,
You're
you
here.
are real.
Yeah.
It's,
the deep
dude,
fakes.
that's
we've
coming,
been playing
man.
a lot with
Yeah.
deep fakes recently, and we were actually talking about it with respect to some of our clients and how it affects security.
Mhm.
Right, like deep fakes fundamentally blow up security in
everything.
lots and lots of ways.
Yeah.
Lyrebird, if no one's played with Lyrebird, is radically terrifying.
Yeah.
The ability to synthesize someone's voice. So I
Mhm.
really want to do a terrible dark experiment, not at all related to working here.
Let's do it though.
Okay.
Okay.
I want to make a 1-800 number that calls you and gets you to talk and steals your voice and then calls you back. and says-
Great. Way to just toss it out there on the mic. Now it's in
well,
the
everybody
ether.
can steal my voice. I'm
yeah.
speaking into the damn thing.
Someone's gonna make that and use it against
But
it.
to me, that's like I am actually starting to look at artists, right?
Yeah.
Because like artists are smart artists are the ones that
Yeah.
use technology incorrectly intentionally.
Right.
Yeah.
And they start to break it. So like you should be looking at philosophers, you should be looking at what's coming out of art programs, you should be looking at biennales and stuff like that, because like that's where people are really starting to play with this stuff in general,
Yeah.
and to just like art creates questions,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's fundamentally
Makes you face what really is happening.
right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because like fundamentally, you're like trust is going to I don't know, go down, become harder to verify.
I think it'll just
However,
become
It's funny,
localized.
like
It's
privacy
just gonna
and
become
trust
local.
at the same time
at the
both go
same
away.
time. Like,
right?
that's fundamentally weird. And if you say that, you know, the way around
I wish I
this
could
is
be born right now again because I'm just not capable. Of,
like
I
just
don't have the
dropping
brain
it.
plasticity to deal with
it,
this.
yeah.
To deal with this.
And you know, it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all sorts of stuff from sci-fi that talks about where societies go like this in the future. And, you know, some of them are utopian and most of them are dystopian. And,
Yeah.
And I think honestly,
It
like,
always turns out better than you think, though. Like, you know, I mean, you can. It's fun to watch movies. It's like 1996, New York City is a jail. You know,
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
There's no way
Yeah.
in or out.
Right.
And
Now you go to
and,
Williamsburg.
and,
it's
and,
like,
you know, when it was 84, you're watching it going, yeah, probably. You know,
yeah.
Look at
'cause-
Detroit. Yeah,
'cause
exactly.
things aren't.
Yeah.
Yeah, New York's kind of sketch right now.
Well, so
so
it's like
Yeah.
it's all relative to you, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the challenge. I have a 7-year-old daughter. Like, I think about this a lot through her eyes,
yeah.
right? Like, and what do I teach her to do and not to do, and
Yeah.
and things like that.
The larger march of humanity has continued to be positive.
Yeah.
Less violent, positive, people, less people in poverty, more people educated. Like all those
Mhm.
trends have. I mean, they're very clear.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But you're always faced with this technology that can go so wrong, right?
Yeah.
And this is the latest. It won't be the last.
No.
It's going to
No.
continue.
Yeah.
But it's good to talk about it and think about it. And I really thank you guys for coming on. I wish we had more time,
Yeah.
but that's
Sit here
it.
For hours.
That's
Thanks.
it, man. Yeah, we could keep going. I'm sure.
Freak each other out.
And everybody out there, thanks for listening to the Woodshed. And everybody out there, thanks for listening to the Woodshed. You can find out more about Joe at what links should I check out for you?
BeaconTrustNetwork.com, and it's spelled just like it sounds. So don't, it's not a weird.
Don't be
startup name.
fancy with it.
BeaconTrustNetwork.com.
Okay, check
That's
out.
it. We don't have social media. We're not getting it. Grab our newsletter if you want.
Awesome. So for those links and more show notes from this episode, go to thewoodshedshow.com. And lastly, thanks to Beacon Street Studios for our theme music, which we love so much. You can find them and all your music and jingle needs at beaconstreetstudios.com. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time in the Woodshed. Hold for room tone. I don't know. I made that up.
Sounded good.